I'm pregnant with your husband's child. I was speechless at my sister's sudden confession. So, I want a divorce. I'm going to remarry your sister. I'm sorry I stole your husband, a doctor earning $10,000 a month. Next to my sister, my husband was looking down at me with a serious face, and my sister's hand was tightly holding my husband's hand. I was so shocked that I couldn't speak. What's with that face? As usual, you are ugly. That's why your husband has a change of heart. From now on, you are going to live on your meager salary. Hearing my sister's loud laugh, I felt my heart cooling down. I'm the one who wants to say sorry. They probably don't know. I'm laughing in my heart without telling them about my real sister's terrible misunderstanding. My name is Jessica. I've been married to Brandon for 3 years. I met my husband in a university tennis club. Tennis was my only stress relief in my suffocating university life, which was full of studying. Since the club itself was a cheerful activity, I often sweated on the tennis court in the campus, sacrificing my study time. You have nice one. The first one to talk to me was my husband. My husband, who was in a different faculty and didn't seem to be busy studying, always came to me first when I visited the club. I played tennis until high school. I quit playing seriously because of an injury. But you are good at it. It's completely different from me who is just playing. I can teach you. I think we're a great match. I believed such words, which seems like a typical pickup line, from the bottom of my heart. In fact, I had never dated a man before and had hardly even had a proper conversation because I was always studying. I was completely taken in by my husband's positive attitude. I had no idea of the hard times awaiting me 5 years later. After graduating from the university, we got married. Although it would be a lie to say that we had no fights or breakups during our school years. I always forgave my husband's sloppy behavior, and our relationship dragged on until graduation. I'm sure I'll become a good husband. How much I believed in his proposal was, I wonder. Now it seems doubtful, but at that time I still had trust in my husband. There were feelings of a 5-year-old rotten relationship. He's not a bad person at heart, and I accepted his proposal with a rather light feeling. We both started working. I had a strong desire to work, and my husband didn't oppose me going out. Rather, I think he was encouraged me to go for it. In fact, with the income of 2 people, we had quite a household income. Having this much economic freedom at a young age, I think we were blessed. We didn't have children for our jobs. It was still early in our careers, so we focused on setting up our lives first. I was climbing up the career ladder smoothly and having fulfilling days, but... Oh, what's this? My gaze inadvertently went to the smartphone that my husband had left in the living room. A message from an unknown name. Normally, I tried not to pry in his privacy, but my husband had a past of cheating. It was back in our student days, but then he was secretly communicating with a girl from another club. I entered my husband's birthday and easily unlocked his smartphone. I opened the messaging app and was shocked. As I feared, there were flirty exchanges with a particular woman recorded. I immediately confronted my husband. His confused state was like a monkey in a zoo. It's not like that. This was just a lapse in judgment. So, you admitted cheating. You had a relationship with this woman. Well, let's make love at our usual hotel. Kisses. You're not young to send such a message. She's a high school graduate and a newcomer, so... Summing up my husband's story, he basically cheated with a new female employee. My husband was her trainer. It's a common story, but I wonder what kind of education he was giving her. I'm really sorry. I swear, I won't make such a mistake again. In the end, I forgave my groveling husband. This has been happening since our university days. I can't help but sigh at my sloppy husband's attitude. Unlike our student days, we had too many obligations. If we were to divorce, we would have to report it to our families, friends, and coworkers and would make them disappointed. Honestly, it was easier to give my husband a harsh scolding than to do such troublesome things. I made him to write an apology letter. If he made the same mistake again, he wouldn't get away with it. That was a promise. That's how our married life continued, barely surviving several storms. One day, huh, my father? It was sudden news of my father's death. According to my crying mother on the phone, he seems to have collapsed on the way home from drinking and was taken to the hospital. It appeared to be a stroke. My father's discovery was late, and on top of that, last night was in the middle of winter, so he unfortunately never came back to life. He was 60 years old, just before retirement. I took care of all the funeral arrangements. My mother cried all the time and wasn't in any condition to manage. With the support of relatives and a hollowed-out mother, I barely managed to complete the funeral proceedings. I felt sorry for the inconvenience to the workplace, but my colleagues and superiors never complained. I'll never forget about it. One issue was to deal with my sister. I have a sister 2 years older than me. Her name is Anna. After graduating from high school, my sister left our parents' home, so I hadn't seen her for nearly 10 years. The circumstances of her leaving were problematic. My sister had always been a troublemaker, causing trouble for our parents. She had been involved with the police more than once or twice. Her relationships with men were particularly unrestrained, and she had been involved with multiple adult men since junior high school. Some of these men were married. So of my sister's behavior, my parents scolded her all the time. Live a decent life. Don't ruin your own life. Although it was sound advice, it didn't seem to resonate with my sister at all. Finally, it was discovered that she had secretly given money from our house to a male host, which led to a huge fight with both of our parents, especially our father. Get out! It's not surprising that my father declared disinheritance. I don't even think of you as my daughter anymore. In response to his words, my sister also retorted and stormed out of the house. Who would want to come back to such a poor and gloomy house? As she said, my sister never showed her face to us again until my father passed away. Even though I had to inform her of our father's death. Her cell phone number was still the same, so I had to send her a short message informing her of our father's death on the same day. My mom said, "There's no need for that." My mom was angry, but I couldn't ignore my sister. There was no contact from my sister until just before the funeral. If she doesn't come, it's fine then. Just when I was thinking, my sister finally showed up at the post-cremation meal where we were breaking our fast after mourning. My sister's face, with her makeup thicker by 3 times than before, faced us after about 10 years. Huh, so you got married? Without much of greeting to our late father. My sister seemed interested in the fact that I had brought my husband. My husband, who had managed to participate in the ceremony during the break from his work, had been timid meek as a lamb until my sister showed up. He's not the type of person who can move briskly in ceremonial situations. I hadn't messed his marrying. I wish this would end soon. Your husband isn't bad looking, is he? What? Did you get to know him at work? We met through a club in college. Our workplaces are completely different. Huh. You hooked a good one. You were always studying, right? Well, if you could get a man with a decent education, that's good. You don't seem to be struggling with money. Well, since one of us is a doctor, the salary is decent. We both work. But more importantly, you should probably greet our father. Huh, a doctor. My sister's eyes seemed to plot something. She may have even licked her lips. My husband, subjected to her snake-like gaze, was simply flustered. We disbanded on that day. My sister, who said she would contact me soon, didn't contribute any condolence money in the end. I have no intention of following up on my mother's lament, unfilial child. Things started to get strange after about 6 months. Although the sadness of losing my father had not yet healed, I had almost completely forgotten about the days of the funeral and my sister. On the other hand, it seems that my sister remembered it well. About my husband. Brandon? After work, I saw a familiar figure near the station. The navy suit was the one I had just cleaned for yesterday. What surprised me was the sight of the woman next to him. They were holding hands, looking friendly. Again, my husband's bad habits. As the flames of anger flared up, I realized my husband's crime was not just that. This time, I was taken aback more than angry. Next to my husband, flouting her miniskirt, was my sister Anna, holding my husband's hand. My husband cheating with my own sister? I blurted out involuntarily, then decided to follow them. If this is truly an affair, I will not forgive my husband this time. I've been tormented by my husband's womanizing many times, but if it's with my own sister, it's beyond a joke. Moreover, the occasion where they met face to face was at my dad's funeral. I'll definitely catch them in the act. I gritted my teeth and focused on not losing sight of them. As expected, they headed towards the hotel district. It was still daytime. My husband was supposed to be at work. I wonder what kind of excuse he used to leave the office. They walked past numerous hotels glued even closer together. At one of the hotels where they finally stopped, they started kissing. Disgusting. This is the first time I had witnessed my husband's infidelity. Then, they went into the hotel in front of them. I called my husband's smartphone after letting the two of them off the hook for a while holding back my nausea. After an irritating wait, my husband finally picked up the phone. What is it? I'm working. There's something I really need to check with you. Who are you with right now? Who? You know. Of course. I'm with my colleagues and boss. We have an important meeting coming up. Oh, so you have important meetings at the Love Hotel? Jewelry Resort? What a flippin' name, isn't it? How do you... I also know that my sister is with you. You're the one who need to explain. Just wait there with my sister. After I had an ace up my sleeve, Brandon's voice seemed muffled and raspy. Finally, after checking with my sister, he informed me of the room number. All right. I braced myself and stormed into the hotel. I explained the situation to the receptionist and paid for another room. After all this humiliation he's put me through, I won't show any mercy to my husband. When I opened the door to room 402, My husband was waiting there with a pale face. He was already dressed in a gown, having taken off his suit. My sister had same gown as my husband, and mocking expression on her face. The pitiful wife showed up. She started smoking, showing no sign of remorse. On the contrary, she seems to be enjoying the situation. Just like half a year ago, her makeup was heavily plastered, like paint. First, I confronted my sister, who was making a creepy face. Anna, what are you thinking? You knew he's my husband, and you made your hands on him, didn't you? Wow, it's frustrating. After being kicked out of the house, I've had a really hard time. I was even abandoned by the host I was sponsoring. I didn't have a single thing going well for me. Despite all that, you were living a happy married life. You left home because of your selfishness, right? You troubled our parents to the end. And now you are trying to ruin my family too? The chaos was there from the start. I heard from Brandon. It's truly pitiful, because you always say harsh things. He doesn't even have a moment of peace at home. That's why I've been comforting him. Don't say whatever you want. This is a problem within our family. So, you're just not satisfying your husband, are you? A boring woman like you. I'm different in that respect. I'm satisfying him. That's why we've been going out for half a year now. You're lying. It's been since right after my father's funeral. Understand me, Jessica. I was at my limit too. You were always nagging me, and there was hardly any marital affection. We haven't even been intimate for over a year now. The husband exposing the couple's shame in front of his wife's sister. Although embarrassing as it was to the point of crying, I retorted to my husband. The reason we couldn't stay as a couple was because of your womanizing. Have you forgotten your promise? That you would never betray me again? That's... And on top of that, how come it's my sister? Besides, right after my father's funeral. Hey, stop booing Brandon. He's not yours anymore, right, Brandon? My sister, who had interjected, seemed to be whispering something to my husband. He lifted his head, which had been lowered, and turned to me with determination. Now I was the one taken aback. Jessica, please, divorce me. We're having a baby. What? You heard it. I'm pregnant now. Of course, the father is Brandon. We've been making love almost every week since then. And this belly is the fruit of that. While speaking, her sister lovingly stroked her belly. I was left speechless. This was no accident, but a deliberate act. From the start, my sister intended to steal my husband, and my husband also intended to end our marriage. That's why they didn't use contraception. They went out of their way to show me the baby in her belly. Too bad. You don't stand a chance. He's mine now. He's leaving you and marrying me. Right, Brandon? Yeah, let's be happy together. No, the three of us, with our baby. I will do my best. You've been dumped. Truly, my condolences. There goes your elegant lifestyle. From now on, that will be mine. After my sister's laughter echoed, I left the hotel room. To be honest, I don't remember how I made it home. I vomited 3 times in the toilet at home. As I rushed up my stomach acid, I couldn't stop crying. I was more upset about being betrayed than about losing my husband. My husband and sister trampled on my humanity. Moreover, they made use of the baby. I cried all night and greeted the morning with a drained body. From that day on, my husband did not come home. There was no doubt that he had moved into my sister's place. Probably soon he would pack up and leave. At that time, he might bring divorce papers at me, along with a wedding ring we chose together 5 years ago. The worst day of my life. Nevertheless, I couldn't afford to take a day off from work. There were people who depended on me. Above all, now, only my work is my anchor. Holding back nausea and tears, I gritted my teeth and headed to the workplace. A week later, while I was working as usual at the workplace, my husband and sister showed up in front of me. I was not very surprised, but two of them seemed to be quite shocked. As my sister sat in a chair full of patients, holding her belly, she stared at me in my white coat in astonishment. "Why are you here?" "Because this is an obstetrics and gynecology department and I am on duty today. The doctor who usually examines you is off due to some circumstances." "You are a doctor? But why? Brandon was supposed to be the doctor." My sister looked puzzled, looking back and forth between my husband and me. I found it funny and explained it to her properly. "You must have misunderstood, sister. I am the one who is a doctor. I worked hard to get into medical school." "But at the funeral, Brandon said he was a doctor. You thought yourself a high-educated husband." "I only said, if one person is a doctor, the salary would be decent. You misunderstood that." "But Brandon said he was a doctor." As my sister's gaze pierced him, my husband, who seemed to have come along as an escort, only turned pale. He repeated clumsy excuses like a fish washed up on the beach. "No, I was actually thinking of talking to you seriously, but then you mentioned getting pregnant." "So you lied about being a doctor just to impress my sister and sleep with her. How pathetic. You're not a doctor. You're a low-paid salesman." "Well, that's—" "What do you mean, low-paid? What about $1,000,000 a month? We've already started looking at luxury apartments, and we've even contacted a regular car dealer to get a car. I've already maxed out my credit card and designer bags and shoes." "Why would you waste money like that? And why is Jessica even at this hospital?" "She's supposed to be working at a different hospital. That's why I brought her here. When I took time off for my father's funeral, the doctor from this hospital helped me out multiple times. Now she has a situation, so I'm returning the favor. I've been working hard even while you two were having cheating on me." "Jessica, listen, this is the end of us. I'm fed up with you. Go ahead and divorce or remarry, but make sure to pay me alimony." "Wait, Jessica. I admit I was wrong. I'll change my ways this time. Let's forget about the divorce for now." "What are you saying? Remember when you cheated with a girl from your office, you promised me that if it happened again, you'll pay whatever amount of alimony I demanded." I showed my husband's written pledge I had taken with my smartphone camera at that time, completed with his signature and thumbprint. My husband let out a silent scream. "At least 5 million yen. No, considering it was right after my father's funeral, I could even add a bit more. I'll contact a good lawyer. You two can wait and tremble." "Wait! Does that mean I have to pay alimony too? Are you going to demand it from me?" "Of course. That's what it means to steal your sister's husband. Don't worry. I'll give you a grace period until the baby is born. That's my moral obligation as an obstetrician. But instead, make sure you pay it up after the baby is born. I'll have you give up all your designer bags and shoes. And I'll add the funeral offering for my father. You'll apologize on your knees in front of his grave." I glared at my sister and walked away. started the regular examination. As soon as I instructed her to get on the bed, my sister fled the examination room. Perhaps she was afraid of me wearing rubber gloves. My husband, who remained, seemed to want to say something, but he meekly retreated under the cold stare of the nurses. Thinking that I wouldn't have to see my husband's face anymore, I felt truly liberating. And then, another half a year later, it seems that my sister had a baby safely at a different obstetrics and gynecology clinic. Regardless of what my sister has done, the newborn baby is innocent. Knowing it was a healthy baby girl, I felt relieved deep down. But as for my sister herself, it's a different story. I don't feel a shred of pity for her. As I declared, after the baby was born, I sent my sister a letter demanding alimony. The total is 5.3 million yen. Of course, 300,000 yen is for the condolence money for my father's funeral. I plan to deliver it to my mother. As for my husband, no, my ex-husband, life seems to be quite tough with the alimony he owes me. His workplace also, due to the rumors of his affair, he had no choice but to resign. It seems difficult for him to get rehired as a full-time employee. I heard he's juggling 10 jobs now. As for who spread the rumors of the affair at his former workplace, I think it's best left unsaid. Furthermore, through the grapevine, I heard he hasn't gotten over his womanizing ways. He seems to be angering my sister by hitting on any woman close at hand. At this rate, they seem like a suitable couple, and I feel truly refreshed being able to break up with my ex-husband. Now I'm dedicating myself to my work as an obstetrician. Today, too, mothers-to-be with big bellies are waiting for my help. My name is Olivia. I'm a 32-year-old housewife. My husband, Liam, is 34 years old, just an ordinary office worker. We've been married for 8 years and have a precious daughter named Ava. Our 6-year-old daughter is very adorable. Both Liam and I are smitten. I have an older sister, Emma, who is 3 years older than me. My sister, who just turned 35, got divorced due to a personality clash and became a single mother. Her son, Noah, is still a young boy at 4 years old. One day, we planned to go to the zoo with my sister and her child. Unfortunately, I fell ill with a cold at the wrong time. When I tried to cancel the appointment reluctantly, Liam kindly offered to take the day off from work because he thought the kids would be disappointed. Even though it's with the kids, Liam and Emma would be alone together. But who would think that a problem would occur between these two, even though they're just brother and sister-in-law? Another day, when I was walking through the shopping district after shopping, I happened to see Liam and Emma in a cafe. I wondered why they were together. However, as it was almost the time for Ava to come home from her after-school program, I headed home while still concerned. That night, when Liam came home and I asked him about it, he said, "It just started raining where we happened to meet. We just went to the cafe to wait until it stopped." He seemed calm and nonchalant, so at the time, I trusted him. But since that day, Liam started coming home late more frequently. Furthermore, he began to ask for more money, claiming he was short on cash. Even more so, he started going out more on his days off. Whenever Emma visited our house, their atmosphere seemed more familiar than before. It was a parade of suspicions. Still, I continued to trust him. Liam, as always, adored Ava, and our relationship remained as good as it has been. But perhaps I was the only one who thought things were fine. Yes, an incident occurred that made me realize this. It was when Emma came to our house as usual. "A friend invited me on a trip. Would you mind taking care of Noah for about a week?" For a whole week? The destination is Hawaii, and it's hard to go with Noah. But please, I've been so busy recently, and I need a break. I'll bring back souvenirs, promise. Okay? My sister begged me, who was reluctant. Surely my sister had been through a lot since her divorce. My parents and I have helped in many ways, but raising a child alone is probably beyond imagination. So, reluctantly, I agreed. As the day of Emma's trip to Hawaii got close, I'll be away for a while on a business trip, Liam told me. He said it would take several days as he had to visit multiple areas. I thought it might be tough, but I was surprised when I heard the departure date. It was the same day as Emma's trip to Hawaii. Was this a coincidence? Is it a coincidence that Liam's business trip and Emma's holiday are on the same day? Is it a coincidence that Liam has been spending more time looking at his cell phone? Is it just my imagination that he's acting secretive and trying not to be seen by me? Is it my imagination that when Emma comes to our house, he casually touches her hand and they seem close? I couldn't help but find everything suspicious. And then, on the day of Emma's departure for her trip, Emma came early in the morning with Noah. The moment I held Noah's hand, I noticed something was off. His hand was unusually hot. His body, when I lifted him, was also hot. I didn't need a thermometer to know he had high fever. Emma, doesn't Noah have a fever? Yes. He's been running a fever since yesterday. It hasn't gone down yet. What? We have to take him to the hospital right away. Surely her son should be more important than the trip. But then my sister said something outrageous. So, I'm counting on you. What? That's why I'm asking you to take care of Noah. You can't be serious. You're leaving your child here while he has a fever? I have no choice, do I? I made the promise long ago. It's ridiculous to pay a cancellation fee. What? That's not the point, is it? Isn't Noah the most important here? Of course he's important, but I'm not worried because you're here, Olivia. Take good care of him for me. Wait, Emma! Despite my attempts to stop her, Emma left. I couldn't believe it. Despite such a young child suffering from high fever, Noah seemed to be really suffering, maybe because of the strain of moving while having a high fever. I quickly laid him down on the bed and put a cold wet towel on his forehead. While I was preparing an ice pillow in the freezer, Liam woke up. Liam, it seems Noah has a fever. Really? Is that so? Emma is terrible. She's going on a trip leaving Noah in the States. Well, she had planned it long ago, right? She probably can't cancel at this point. You too, Liam? Poor Noah. If you feel that way, you should take good care of him. Liam, can't you do something about your business trip? If Noah has some contagious disease, he might pass it to Ava. I'll take care of Noah, so I want you to take care of Ava. I thought my husband, who loves our daughter, would reluctantly agree. Work is important, but surely our daughter is even more important. But my expectations were betrayed. What? That's impossible. You should know that. If you're worried, just leave her at your parents' house. Even if you say that, my parents are busy with work, and your parents' house is too far away to go now. Then there's no choice. Well, all we need to do is let Noah sleep. It'll be fine. Don't say that so casually. What do you want me to do then? Anyway, I can't. It's time. I have to go. I'll be going then. With that, Liam hurried off. Left behind, I quickly called my parents. They couldn't take a day off work because it was sudden. But my mother said she would leave work early and come to pick up Ava as soon as possible, which gave me some relief. Until my mother arrives, I'll have to keep Ava confined in the room, as sorry as I feel for her. Meanwhile, it seemed that Noah's condition was getting worse. In addition to the fever, he started to cough. In the early afternoon, my mother, who had left work early, arrived, and I took Noah to the pediatrician as soon as I left Ava with her. On the way to the hospital, my heart ached seeing Noah suffering just from the car ride. The doctor said it was just a common cold, and I was told to give him the prescribed antipyretic and watch his condition. However, I was told to call an ambulance without hesitation if his fever rose further or if he became dangerously delirious. I'm sorry, Mom. I suddenly had to ask you to take care of Ava. Don't worry about it. More importantly, I'm worried about Noah. For my parents, Noah is as dear a grandchild as Ava. I can hear the concern in my mother's voice over the phone. After I finished talking with my mother, I suddenly felt the need to call my husband's company. I wanted to ask for the location of his business trip in case of emergencies. The answer that came back was, he should be on paid leave. I looked up at the sky. A bad premonition was starting to feel real. I opened my husband's laptop. I had never seen his personal one before, but I could tell where he went just by looking at his search history. The destination was Hawaii. The plane tickets and hotel were all arranged by my husband. I recognized the name of the hotel. It was a place my sister had told me she was staying. My sister and husband in Hawaii at the same hotel at the same time. Such a coincidence is impossible, not even 1 in 10,000. To begin with, the fact that my husband, who said he was on a business trip, is in Hawaii on paid leave is abnormal. Out of curiosity, I looked at my mobile phone to check my sister's SNS. No new posts were made, but when I checked her recent ones, she's not clearly visible, but it's evident that she's often with someone. The clothes that are visible, if only a bit, are all familiar. What changed my suspicion into certainty was a picture in which the watch of the person she was with was visible. It was something I had given my husband. It's not expensive, but it's from a minor maker, so it's a watch with a unique design. A person other than my husband is appearing in my sister's photos, wearing the same clothes and the same watch as my husband. Such a possibility is virtually zero. Then I found the conclusive photo. In a photo labeled as window shopping, my sister was reflected in the glass. At the edge of the photo, a certain person was also reflected in the glass. Undoubtedly, it was my husband. My elated sister probably posted the photo without realizing that my husband was reflected in the glass. I saved all the photos with my trembling hands. There's no doubt. My sister and husband are having an affair. Right now, they are together. I felt as though everything I had built up with my husband was collapsing all at once. I called them many times, but soon an automated voice message started to play. It seemed that they had turned off their phones. Noah's fever still hadn't gone down. Seeing his pained face, my anger began to well up, despite a young child suffering so much, despite me being in such a tough situation. At this moment, my sister and husband are probably laughing and enjoying their trip to Hawaii. Could there be a story more cruel than this? I'm shaking with anger. I think about what to do, but that's for later. First, I need to wait for Noah to recover. Even so, there was no sign of Noah's fever decreasing. On the contrary, it seemed to be increasing even more. I was shocked when I took his temperature. 107 degrees? Children are prone to high fevers. Ava has had a fever of 104 degrees before, but never this high. Why isn't the fever reducer working? Noah is completely exhausted, and it seems painful to move him unnecessarily. What should I do? I desperately tried to suppress the panic that was threatened to overcome me at the gravity of the situation. I was just thinking about calling an ambulance when I grasped my smartphone. "Mommy," Noah murmured in a small voice. Noah, distorting his face in pain, calling out for his mother. I can't forgive them. I'll never forgive them. At the moment when my vision seemed to turn red with rage, Noah's condition took a sudden turn. A week had passed since then. Despite my sadness, today was a clear day. I was staring blankly at the wide blue sky. Before I knew it, tears were spilling down my face. I don't know how many times I've cried, but my tears never dried up. Ava's hand, holding mine, was trembling. My daughter was also crying. As I lifted her up, I could see my parents breaking down in tears over my daughter's trembling little body. Other attendees too. Everyone was crying. Suddenly, my smartphone vibrated. When I put Ava down and looked at the display, I see my sister's name there. Hello? Oh, Olivia? It's been a while. I just got back from Hawaii. I'm at the airport now, and I'm going to pick up Noah next. Thanks for looking after him. It felt like a call from another world. I uttered a phrase as if whispering. Our dear has gone to heaven. A single tear, which should have stopped, spilled over. What? Unable to comprehend what I said, my sister on the phone asked back in a dumbfounded voice. What, heaven? What are you talking about? That makes no sense. So, our loved one is in heaven, while you were enjoying your trip to Hawaii. What? I don't understand what you're saying. You'll understand when you get here. The funeral is over, and we're now at the crematorium. What? The crematorium? When I told my confused sister the location of the crematorium, the phone call ended abruptly. Noah! Noah? My sister, who got out of the taxi, came running with a desperate look. She called his name and looked around, but Noah wasn't there. Where is he? He's not here. Of course he isn't. What do you mean? I pointed slowly in the direction of the crematorium. Though modern crematoriums don't emit smoke like the old ones, there was no doubt that this person was being cremated right now. About Noah, the day you dropped him off, his fever suddenly spiked to 107 degrees Fahrenheit. 107 degrees? The antipyretic we got from the pediatrician didn't work, and his condition deteriorated rapidly. We called an ambulance in a panic. So, Noah? I don't want to answer. We're in the middle of a funeral right now. Saying so, I spread my arms, pointing to the crematorium. Hey, what's going on? What happened to Noah? Why are you here? A man shouted in place of my speechless sister. That was my husband. Shockingly, my husband had come along with my sister. It doesn't matter why I'm here. What about Noah? Of course it matters. Not wanting to lose to my husband's voice, I shouted back. What kind of nerve do you two have to abandon your family and go on an affair trip? And Noah was sick with a fever. Even though I said we needed help, you ignored us and went on your trip. Are you out of your mind? What are you saying? I've known for a long time. When I contacted your company, they said you had taken a paid leave. When I checked the computer, there was a reservation for a trip to Hawaii. Staying on the same flight and in the same hotel as my sister. You think you can explain that away as a coincidence? Mats. I must have had quite the expression on my face. Overwhelmed by my intensity, my husband lost his words. Olivia, tell me, did Noah pass away? How can you ask that question now? Why do you think we're here? Why do you think we're wearing mourning clothes at the crematorium? Don't you understand? No. Ah! My sister's scream dominated the scene. I looked down at my sister, who was collapsing in tears with cold eyes. You have no right to cry, Emma. You're the worst kind of person who abandons her son and goes on a trip with your sister's husband. I was lonely. I was so lonely all by myself. That's why. That's why you laid hands on my husband? What? I did nothing wrong. I'm not in the wrong. The one who didn't want to take care of his son, my ex-husband, is at fault. And not only him. The grandparents who didn't help with the grandchild's care, and Olivia too, are to blame, right? Unbelievably, my sister lashed out in anger. I did nothing wrong. I didn't have a child because I wanted to, nor did I become a single mother because I wanted to. I wanted my ex-husband to take the child when we divorced, but he refused. So I did my best on my own. But to think he would die. Noah, Emma. The one who hugged my crying sister was my husband. It seemed he had no intention of hiding their illicit relationship anymore. Don't be selfish. Our parents and I have helped as much as we can. And leaving a sick child alone to have an affair, that's no excuse for that. You don't even realize how much of a scum you are. You're the worst. Hey, Olivia, aren't you being too harsh on your real sister? Emma is shocked because Noah has passed away. Shut up! Don't you dare act superior, accomplice. Just so you know, we're getting a divorce. I'll have you pay everything you owe, so be prepared. What? What does that have to do with this? It has everything to do with this. My husband and I were yelling at each other, with my sister crying. This is what they call a battlefield. My parents approached us in such a situation. My sister, with her face all teary, blamed our parents. Dad, Mom, Noah, why didn't you take proper care of Noah? Why did you? Immediately after, a dry slapping sound echoed. Don't be ridiculous. It was her father who slapped my sister's cheek. You abandoned your child, and yet you blame others. What? What? And you even went on a trip with your sister's husband? You shameless. I feel ashamed as a father for raising you like this. At our father's words, my sister cried even harder. I thought about slapping my husband too. Just as I was glaring at him, Mom? A small boy's voice could be heard. My sister turned around sharply, and there was... What? Noah? Noah was being held by a man. Noah! Noah! My sister got up and ran to them, but the man quickly moved Noah away from her reaching hands. Hey, what are you doing? Lucas! Lucas, the man holding Noah. It was my sister's ex-husband, the man who divorced her due to their personal clash. That's what I should be saying. What are you doing leaving Noah alone? It's none of your business. Noah is my son. He's my son too. I followed the public opinion that a mother is better because you insisted on not sharing custody. No matter how many times I urged you, you wouldn't let me see him. And as I feared, it came to this. You have no right to be Noah's mother. Shut up! All you have to do is quietly pay child support. I'll pay as much as it takes for Noah's sake. But you didn't take care of him. You left him alone. You didn't even know how dangerous his condition was. And you were off on a pleasure trip. On that day, when Noah's condition suddenly deteriorated, I panicked and called an ambulance. I called my parents and Lucas, Noah's father, while treatment was being given after arriving at the hospital. He was quite surprised when I told him my sister was on a pleasure trip with my husband. Afterwards, Noah, who was discharged from the hospital in good health, was recuperating at Lucas's parents' house. Wait, so Noah is safe, right? Then who is this? To my bewildered husband staring at the crematorium, I said, It's her grandmother. Our grandmother, who was bedridden due to her advanced age, has been under the care of a nursing home. She passed away from old age the other day. Even though she was bedridden, she had a clear mind and doted on her great-grandchildren, Ava and Noah. When we occasionally visited her at the facility, her wrinkled face would crinkle even more. At the sudden farewell, I, my parents, and Ava were unable to cope and just wept. Noah, being just out of illness, didn't attend the funeral. But I called my sister to this crematorium after informing Lucas, who said that Noah was fine since his fever had completely gone down. You tricked me? No one said Noah passed away. Despite the accusatory look from my sister, we were the ones who wanted to accuse her. I didn't hear that Grandma had passed away either, my sister shouted. I called multiple times to tell you that Grandma had passed away, but your phone was turned off. Both of you were unreachable. Even though Grandma was kind to you, it's unacceptable to be late. Enough! Everyone's mocking me. Noah, let's go. You'd rather be with Mommy than this man, right? Lucas, give Noah back to me now. Enough already. It was Father who scolded my sister, who was confronting Lucas. Are you still thinking that you can keep Noah with you, even after all this? Listen, what you did was on the verge of breaking the law. It's called parental neglect. You failed as a mother. Don't think that you can ever be by Noah's side again. Noah will be raised by Lucas. Dad, no way! We have even hired a lawyer and decided to fully cooperate with Lucas. You are no longer our daughter. Be prepared for us to cut ties. Ma? My sister's face turned pale at the disownment from her parents. I stood impulsively in front of my sister. My husband and I are getting a divorce. Why don't you two get along? You should be fine not seeing each of your children. After all, you left them behind to go on a trip overseas." Hearing that, my husband starts yelling. "Wait, Olivia! It was just a moment of weakness. It was just a fling with Emma. What's most important to me are Olivia and Ava." Then my sister started shouting. "What did you say? A fling? You said you don't love Olivia anymore, that you only love me. Shut up, I love my daughter. Don't mess with me." And so the quarrel between my husband and sister restarted. We left my sister and husband arguing forever and departed with my grandmother's ashes. After that, despite the serious dispute, the mediation ended peacefully since I had appointed a lawyer. Noah went to his father's place. I thought he would feel sad about being apart from his mother, but he was actually happy. It seemed my sister was completely non-functional as a mother. My husband and I also had a dispute. Rather, my husband was stubborn, but after being scolded by my parents and his parents, he was deflated. What became the deciding factor was our daughter's final blow. "I don't need Daddy." Even though she's only 6, girls mature early. She probably understood her father's terrible behavior in her own way. When my daughter looked at my husband like he was an insect, I couldn't help but laugh. There's no greater punishment for my husband, who adored our daughter, well, my ex-husband now. He has the right to see our daughter, but whether she wants to see him is up to her. And so, the dramatic situation came to an end. Ava and I moved back to our parents' home and are living peacefully. Our parents are thrilled to be living with Ava. Next year, she would be a first grader, and we are getting excited about her school preparation. I also plan to get a job at the same time she starts school. Noah comes by every now and then with Lucas. His face is unrecognizably bright compared to before, and filled with smiles. By the way, while we are living with smiles, it seems that my sister and ex-husband ended their relationship easily. Perhaps it was really just a fling for my ex-husband. Perhaps he was shocked at being disliked by his daughter, so he easily discarded my sister. However, his terrible act of having an affair with his wife's sister was known in his company, and he was deemed to have character problems and was sent to the provinces. This will make it even harder for him to see his daughter. He deserves it. As for my sister, it seems that she lived a life like a hollow shell for a while due to the frustration of being abandoned by everything. Eventually, she disappeared. We have filed a missing persons report, but I have a feeling that probably my sister will never be found. One day, my husband disappeared without a trace. It was only several days later that I found out he had run off with my sister. 12 years have passed since then. After a long silence, my husband contacted me with an audacious demand. "I'm coming home with my new wife. You are in the way. Leave my parents' house." Apparently, he doesn't want to see me, who is still living with his parents. 12 years after eloping, with the dust settled, he probably planned to bring my sister home as his new wife. But they still don't know. They don't know how much the feeling of the entire family, including me, have changed in these 12 years. My name is Sophia. I'm 27 years old. I majored in design in college, and after graduation, I joined a web production company. While leading an ordinary working life, I met my husband, John, when I was 25. He worked in sales at the company, and due to the nature of his job, he was very friendly. Attracted by his approachable demeanor, we dated for a year and got married last year. Upon registering our marriage, we started living with his parents, and I quit the web production company to work as a freelance web designer. I chose to work from home, supporting my husband's life while doing house chores. At first, there were hardly any jobs and the income was unstable. However, lately, I have been receiving projects from various places and earning a sufficient income. I work at my own pace and prioritize my family first. In the morning and evening, I eat with my husband and in-laws, and before going to bed, I enjoy some quality time with my husband. I was very satisfied with my current life. However, at some point, my once kind husband began to change little by little. The trigger was 2 months ago, when my income surpassed my previous salary. I was so happy to reach my target that I was restless all day. I couldn't wait to tell my husband. I was sure he would be happy too. That's what I believed. I rushed to the entrance as soon as my husband came home and told him the good news with a beaming face. John, guess what? My income last month exceeded my old company's salary. Really? That can be true. Your company paid pretty well, right? Yes, but surpassing that was always my goal, and my wish finally came true. Oh, is that so? Is is that all? What would you prefer if I said, "Wow, congratulations"? My husband was unusually sullen and sarcastic. I couldn't understand why he was so upset, so I asked him directly. Hey, John, are you angry? I thought you'd be happy for me. Huh? Why would I be happy? It's not like my salary has increased. Well, that's true, but isn't a wife's joy also a husband's joy? What's that supposed to mean? I'm not one of those cheerful guys. Don't lump me in with them. John? From that day on, his attitude became more and more indifferent day by day. Our everyday conversation diminished, and it was always from me who greeted good morning and good night. Even though we've only been married for a year, our marriage is far from being a happy one. His parents, who we live with, began to notice our relationship, but out of consideration, they said nothing. Even after 2 months, my relationship with my husband remains unchanged. Although we eat our meals at the same time, there's hardly any conversation. He changes the TV channel I'm watching without a word, and eats the food I bought without permission. If I object, his response is always amplified, so I've maintained my silence. One day, midst those days, mother-in-law started the conversation with an anxious look on her face as I was cleaning the house. Sophia, are you okay? Huh? What do you mean by okay? Oh, well, when you first got married, you used to go out with my son a lot. But lately, there's none of that, right? Not only that, but it seems like there's hardly any conversation either. Well, that's true. It's strange, isn't it? We've only been married for a year. I forced a smile, not wanting to worry my mother-in-law. However, it seems she saw right through me. My mother-in-law looked straight at me with a serious expression. If you don't want to talk about it, I won't force you. But I'm worried about you. Lately, it seems like you're just putting on a brave face. Putting on a brave face? I'm not doing anything like that. Your father-in-law has noticed too. Both of us are worried that you are pushing yourself too hard. Mother-in-law, at the end of the day, I may be the one to blame for upsetting my husband over the issue of income. But on the other hand, I felt a bit lonely that he couldn't rejoice in my success. The fact that my in-laws noticed my current struggle and showed concern made me so happy, I almost cried. I decided to tell my mother-in-law the whole story. After hearing everything, my mother-in-law opened her mouth apologetically while rubbing my back. I didn't know such a thing happened. I'm sorry. He's not good as a man if he can't honestly praise someone he loves for hard work. It's my fault, I assumed, without asking, that John would be happy about my success. It's nothing for you to worry about, Sophia. But if we interfere, things might get more complicated. Complicated? I didn't mean to. That's why I think you two should have a proper discussion about this. Do you think you can do it? Yes, I'll be fine. Thank you for listening, mother-in-law. My mother-in-law gave me a warm smile and said it's okay, as she stroked my head. My in-laws who treated me just like their own daughter. They were my salvation from the bottom of my heart. Taking my mother-in-law's advice, I decided to have a proper talk with my husband. That night, after my in-laws had gone to bed, I waited for him to come home. But no matter how many hours passed, there was no sign of him coming home. Normally, he would be home by 10 p.m. at the latest, but it was already past 11 p.m. this day. Why is he so late? There's no reply to my message either. Could something have happened? Worried, I called him several times, but there was no response, only the sound of the phone ringing. Worrying and waiting for 1 hour, it was past midnight when he finally came home. Welcome home. Despite my greeting, my husband only heaved a big sigh and had a displeased look on his face. What? Why are you still up at this hour? Why, I was thinking of having a proper talk with you, John. Talk? About what? Ever since I brought up the topic of my salary, we've been like this, haven't we? I didn't think much of it then, but I might have hurt your pride, John. At that moment, a chill ran down my spine. That's because my husband was glaring at me with a cold expression. I was so terrified that I couldn't find my voice. As if scorning my fear, he calmly threw out his word. There is nothing I want to discuss with you now. Waiting up for me to come home, it's just creepy. Creepy? I just want to build a better relationship with you, John, as a couple. That's what's tiring. I'm seriously thinking I might have chosen the wrong person to marry. Don't say that. Enough already. I'm tired from working overtime. Don't talk to me so casually when all you do is laze around at home. He brushed past me and headed upstairs to his room. Somehow I couldn't move from the spot until the sound of him going up the stairs faded away. Why would he say such a thing? All I want is a normal married life. Even though my mother-in-law encouraged me to do it, nothing is resolved. Seeing his attitude, I don't have the courage to propose another talk to my husband. I felt as if everything about me was being denied, and it hurt. Even after 2 months, there was no conversation with my husband, and the days just passed uneventfully. Then one day, my husband disappeared. Looking around his room, I suddenly felt something was off. Huh? Was John's room always this clean? My husband is not exactly known for his tidiness, but his room was unusually neat. There were hardly any clothes in the closet, and his suitcase was missing. That's when I finally realized he had left the house. I hurried to try to contact my in-laws, but I couldn't reach them. Maybe they were turning off their phone incidentally. Just as I was panicking, not knowing what to do, I got a call from my younger sister, Isabella. Ah, big sis, it's been a while. Isabella? Sorry, I can't talk right now. Your husband. He is not there, is he? What? How? Why would you know that? Forebodings are things that come true. Eventually, she told me an unbelievable fact. Why? Because I'm with your husband right now. What? What are you talking about? At first, it really was a coincidence. I randomly met your husband at the bar. We had a drink together, and I heard that things were not going well between you two. Isabella, don't tell me. I'm dating your husband. We are going far away to get married, so don't get in our way. Going far away? Stop joking around. Bring John back right now. Sorry, but I can't. Actually, I've been interested in your husband for a while now. He's tall and handsome, so sorry. I'm taking your husband. She hung up the phone abruptly. No matter how many times I called back, my sister wouldn't answer. Instead, she sent me a bunch of photos. There were about a few dozen pictures. Some of them were next to each other and others on dates. Either way, it was not something I could bear to look at. A few days later, I received a divorce paper from my husband. When I called his company, they told me he had already resigned. At this point, it's not a problem I can solve by myself. I decided to talk to my parents and in-laws about the situation and ask for their advice. It seems that John and Isabella have eloped. He quit his job without telling me. He apparently wants to divorce me. Once I finished telling the story, everyone present was lost for words. In the midst of this, my father-in-law was the one who finally spoke. Sophia, I'm deeply sorry about my foolish son. I don't expect you to forgive him, and you don't have to. Father-in-law, I don't know how to say this, but I can't forgive Isabella either. To me, you are like a daughter, Sophia. I can't forgive them for hurting my precious daughter. At those words from my father-in-law, both my mother-in-law and my own parents nodded in agreement. It was exactly at that moment all of us changed our opinion of them by 100 degrees. Apparently, my in-laws had been considering moving due to the aging of their house. We don't want to have anything to do with him anymore. With this incident, they decided to move and kept it secret to their son. On the other hand, my parents decided to cut ties with my sister. Even if she were to come back, they would treat her as a stranger and never allow her in the house again. Someone without morals who would steal her sister's husband is no longer our daughter. That was the opinion of both my father and mother. I decided to take this opportunity to move back to my parents' house. I decided to demand alimony from my husband and sister on condition of submitting the divorce paper. Then, I'll pay that much if I can get the divorce. Along with his response, several million in alimony was swiftly transferred into my account. With that exchange, I completely cut off my ties with my husband Isabella. It's been 12 years since the divorce, and a lot has happened since then. My in-laws bought an apartment, demolished their house, and sold the land. As a web designer, I've gained a lot of recognition, and my annual income is incomparable to what it used to be. Thanks to that, I've been able to go on regular trips with my parents and live a fulfilling life. One day, while I was busy with work, my smartphone rang. Thinking it was a work-related call, I answered without checking the screen. But that phone call brought back unpleasant memories. It's been a while, Sophia. How have you been? John? I'm glad you still remember your ex-husband's voice. His tone was as condescending as ever. What do you want? It's been 12 years since we divorced, and you are contacting me now? When I told him off, he let out an unpleasant chuckle. Well, you see, you're in the way, so could you leave the house within 10 minutes? Huh? What are you talking about? We're strapped for cash, so we're on our way over there. I'm bringing my wife home, so you need to leave my parents' house. It seems he still assumes that I'm living with his parents. After 12 years, he seems to believe that heat has died down and they will be accepted. In the background, yeah, get out! I can hear my sister agreeing with him. These guys really don't know anything. Do they think they will be forgiven just because 12 years have passed? The world is not that forgiving. I might as well show them hell. I took a deep breath, gathered my resolve, and told them, "Feel free to come back. I am no longer at your parents' house." Really? Did you get kicked out by my dad or something? Are you an idiot? Your parents' house no longer exists in this world. Huh? What are you? John's voice is shaky and sounds anxious. It seems like they have just arrived at where his parents' house used to be. And John says, "What the hell is this?" He cried out in anguish. To him, I continued mercilessly. "Right after you two eloped, we decided to cut ties with you. Your parents moved away a long time ago, and my parents disowned the women there with you. In other words, there's no place for you two to return to." Well, that's a joke, right? That can be. Believe it or not, it's up to you. Of course, neither your parents nor my parents consider you family anymore. There is no worth being family with scum who trample over people's feelings. That's terrible. We're family, aren't we? Who trampled over the feeling of that family? Don't ever contact me again. I'm not going to let you interfere in my life anymore. I hung up the phone as I finished speaking and blocked their contact. This time, I've finally severed the last ties. After that, they couldn't find their in-laws and they visited my parents' house while I was out. But my parents had already disowned my sister. To my sobbing sister, "Who are you?" they repeatedly kept asking her this and drove her away from the gate. Then the two of them knelt down in front of the entrance. "Please, Dad, Mom, forgive us. We have nowhere else to go." Upon hearing my sister's plea, John also joined in. "I beg you to. Our family home is gone. We have nowhere to go back to." "Quiet. You are no longer family or anything else." "That's right, Dad. Scatter salt at the entrance." "No, wait." "Please, father-in-law, mother-in-law." "I have no reason to be called father-in-law by the likes of you. Get out." Because they were so persistent, my father scattered salt, and my mother reported them for their nuisance behavior. Since then, they haven't seen them. The two of them seems to be jobless and harmless, and they were begging their friends to lend them money. However, their rumors have already spread, and there was not a single person who would lend them money. In any case, it's almost impossible for them to survive in their hometown. They have no choice but to struggle from scratch in an unfamiliar land. However, they brought it on themselves. Since they've sown their seeds, I'd like them to suffer as much as possible. Needless to say, neither my parents nor I will ever meet them again. Ideally, I hope they live with regret for the sins they have committed. What do you think? Even when asked, "How would I know that make up your own mind?" he said, not willing to listen to me, thinking about how James and his friends could spend the rest of their days in Saipan without anyone disturbing them. I realized there was no longer a need to hesitate. When we returned home, we quickly started packing. "Can we move right now?" "Yes, it's fine." They quickly arrived and started moving out our packed belongings. Then we immediately headed to the real estate agency. I wanted to sell my house. The employee at the real estate agency was a very kind person and helped us with the procedure to sell the house on the same day. Now James had completely lost his home. My name is Kate, 43 years old. I live in an apartment in the city with my husband James. I married James 5 years ago. Because we got married late and were not blessed with children, we don't have any kids. But still, because of James' words, life's joy isn't about just children. I'm not bound by the guilt of not being able to have children, and I am able to enjoy each day. James is 45 years old and in the prime of his working life. Lately, he's been working overtime and often comes home late. I used to work at the same company as James, but I quit when we got married. James said it's a bit embarrassing to work at the same company as my wife, so I wanted to quit. And so I respected James' opinion, quit my job, and have been a housewife ever since. One day I got a phone call from my sister-in-law who lives in the next town. It had been a while since we last spoke, and she said, "I'm a bit worried about Mom. I can't go and check on her right away, so could you go and see how she's doing?" My sister-in-law is a very dependable person, and she has helped me many times since I married James. She has 2 children both in junior high and high school, and they are growing up to be fine children. As for my sister-in-law's children, I can understand why they are growing up to be good kids, since she is a wonderful person who I respect. Because it was a request from my sister-in-law, of course, I hurriedly went to check on my mother-in-law the next day. You can see how wonderful my sister-in-law is if you look at my mother-in-law. I love my mother-in-law. She's a straightforward person, always logical and has her own opinions. If something is wrong, she can correct it properly and she cares for those around her well. I'm truly grateful to have met such a wonderful mother-in-law and sister-in-law through my marriage to James. Was shocked when I arrived at my in-laws' home and went inside. There were things scattered everywhere with no place to step and a lot of garbage. It was like a garbage house. My mother-in-law is a clean person. Something was wrong. My mother-in-law was there, not doing anything in particular among the scattered items, looking lost. I called out to her, "Mother-in-law." Then the mother-in-law slowly turned to me and said, who are you again?" as she stood up. Then she turned to James, who had come with me, and said, "Oh, it's you, James. Welcome." We were shocked. Given the drastic change in my mother-in-law, we quickly made a hospital appointment the next day and had her examined. After several days of various tests, the results came out. She had dementia. Moreover, she required nursing care. We called my sister-in-law to my in-law's house and had a discussion. The fact that she needed nursing care meant that we had to take care of her at my in-law's house. My sister-in-law said, "Thank you, Kate. I'll take care of the rest." But surprisingly, James opposed it. "No, sis. Your house is too far away, and it would be hard for the kids to move here." Indeed, because my sister-in-law's house is in the next town, her youngest child would have to transfer schools. "We'll move to our parents' house and take care of her. That's okay, right, Kate?" I was surprised. I didn't think James was such a responsible person. Well, moved by James' feelings, I made up my mind and said, "Of course. Above all, it's for my beloved mother-in-law." And so the days of taking care of my mother-in-law began from this day. I moved to my in-law's house, and every day with my mother-in-law began. While taking care of the house, I also looked after my mother-in-law in all aspects, because my mother-in-law would try to go somewhere if I took my eyes off her. I always had to keep her in my sight. Even when I was doing the laundry, cleaning, or cooking, I always kept an eye on my mother-in-law. But at some point I looked at her expression. I noticed that she seemed quite lonely. I wondered if this kind of life was enjoyable for my mother-in-law. Even though my mother-in-law has dementia, of course, she must have things that she finds enjoyable or happy. Being watched all the time by my side and being still can't be fun. I tried asking, "Mother-in-law, would you like to help me hang up the laundry?" Then my mother-in-law's face brightened, and she said, "Of course, I'd be glad to," and started to help me hang the laundry. Well, it can't be helped that her hands don't move well. Above all, she seemed to enjoy hanging the laundry. I was happy to realize that this was indeed the right answer. Since then, whether I'm cooking or cleaning, instead of just watching over my mother-in-law, I decided to do things with her. Perhaps due to this, it seems that my mother-in-law has started to enjoy moving around when it's a sunny day. "Since it's a nice day today, shall we have lunch in the park?" "That sounds nice. It seems like it would be refreshing." We would go to have lunch together on such occasions. I never found this lifestyle to be tough. My sister-in-law always took care of the hospital drop-offs and pickups, and her two children often came to see my mother-in-law. However, there was one person who was not cooperative at all. That was James. Initially, it was James who said, "We will take care of my mother." But James didn't help at all. Even when I reported things that happened with my mother-in-law during the day, James would listen with a bothered look, giving dull responses. Even when I asked him for a little help, he would say, "I'm tired from work. Why do I have to get tired at home too?" Recently, James has been coming home late due to overtime, so he might indeed be tired, but I wish he would help a little. Even when he comes home, he doesn't talk to his mother at all. Even when I ask him, "Next time, I think we should do this for mother-in-law. What do you think?" he would say, "Why should I know that? Decide it yourself." And he doesn't listen to the conversation. Given the situation, it feels like James is just coming home from work to sleep. One day, James didn't come home even when it was already 11 p.m. Recently, he often said he was working overtime and would often come home past 11, so I assumed it was the same case that day and went to bed earlier. However, for some reason, I had trouble falling asleep that night. Before I knew it, it was already past midnight. I was wondering why James was late when I heard the sound of a car outside. I found it strange to hear a car at this hour, so I looked out the window and saw James getting out of a car. And then I saw a woman in the driver's seat. The moment they got out, James and the woman were laughing happily, and unbelievably they kissed. I had unconsciously taken a picture of the moment with my phone, and I was amazed at myself. Our house has a bedroom on the first floor. The distance from the bedroom window to the car wasn't too far, and the picture captured the scene perfectly. The shock was such that my hands wouldn't stop shaking. When I heard the front door open, I hurriedly got back into bed, and that picture would be my trump card later. From that night on, I began to watch his behavior more carefully. Then I started noticing several things that seemed odd. To begin with, claiming he was working overtime seemed unnatural when I thought about it. James might have forgotten, but we used to work at the same company. I know what kind of work James does, and if I think about it, it's clear that his work doesn't require overtime. And if it's just a simple lie like that, I could verify whether it's true or not. So I decided to call a friend who used to be my coworker. Long time no see, what's up? Sorry for the sudden call, but I wanted to ask about James' department at work. Is it really busy these days? James? Nope. I got assigned to his department last month, but it's pretty laid back. I sometimes wonder if we should even be getting paid. I knew it. There's no way he'd have overtime in such a slack situation. That means on the days when James said he was working overtime, he was probably spending time with his mistress. My suspicions turned into convictions. One morning, as James was leaving for work, I noticed he had a large bag. I asked him suspiciously, "Why are you carrying such a big bag?" He seemed strangely flustered and stuttered, "I suddenly have to go on a business trip for a week. Please take care of things while I'm gone." A week? Where are you going? Oh, well, I'm not sure yet. I need to check at the office, so I'm leaving now. And with that, he left in a hurry. I sent a message to my friend on text. Is there anyone on a business trip today? I'm not sure, but there shouldn't be. We haven't had any big assignments recently. Just as I thought. That means he plans to leave the house for a week to meet his mistress. Then I heard my mother-in-law calling my name. Kate. And then she showed me a piece of notepaper. On it, written in James' handwriting, was a name that seemed to be a hotel, a phone number, and the dates and room numbers for today and tomorrow. This paper came out of James' pocket before I washed his clothes the other day. If I had known, I would have given it to you sooner. I'm sorry, Kate, on behalf of James. So you also knew about James? Kate, you can't just let this slide. James must be given a fitting punishment. There's no time to wallow. My mother-in-law saying so was just like she used to be before she developed dementia. Seeing her so assertive after such a long time really got me fired up. Yes, I won't forgive him no matter what. First, taking into account my mother-in-law's opinion, we decided to call my sister-in-law. As soon as she arrived, my sister-in-law apologized, saying, "Kate, I'm so sorry, my stupid brother," and bowed her head. I tried to comfort my sister-in-law, telling her she didn't need to apologize, and the three of us started to plan our next move. First, we looked at the note and confirmed the location of the hotel. James would probably be staying at this hotel for the next 2 days. After that, what to do? The next day, we decided to drive to the hotel in my sister-in-law's car. When we arrived, we found ourselves at the hotel not so far from LAX airport in Los Angeles, and in the hotel parking lot, we saw a familiar car. I looked at the photo on my smartphone. Of course, it was the picture of James kissing that woman that night. It was the same car that was in the photo. After a while, a man we recognized emerged from the hotel. It was unmistakably James. We hid in the shadow of the car to avoid being seen. A woman came out after him and linked arms with James. I took a photo of the scene, unable to believe what I was witnessing. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law were also left speechless. There was a little boy about 1 year old. The child happily took James' hand, and the three of them walked off cheerfully. To an outsider, they would look like a happy, loving family. I, his actual wife, was the one capturing the scene. I felt pathetic, but there were no time to dwell on that. The three of them headed straight to the airport. They left the car at the hotel. Upon arriving at the airport, they laughed and joked around, before disappearing into the airplane boarding area. Their destination was Saipan. Thinking about James and his companions spent the remaining days happily in Saipan, without any interruptions, I no longer had any doubts. When we got home, we quickly started packing while tidying up the house. We called the moving company and asked, "Can we move right now?" They replied, "Yes, that's fine." They came right away to help us pack. They started to take away the packed items, and we decided to temporarily store them at my sister-in-law's house. After that, we immediately headed to the real estate agent. I wanted to sell my house. The staff at the real estate agency was very kind and helped us to arrange for an immediate sale. Now James would no longer have a home to return to. Just thinking about it made me feel exhilarated. Afterward, my mother-in-law and I got a room at a nearby business hotel where we would stay for a while. After those plans had settled down, there was something I had to confirm, so I went to the city office. The child that James and his mistress were with, was it James' child? I came to check James' family register to confirm this. If he has acknowledged a child, it should be recorded in the family register. And indeed, on the paper handed to me at the reception, the unknown child's name was recorded as James' son. James had indeed told me that children are not the only joy in life, but did James want a child? Because he couldn't have a child with me, did he cheat and have a child with someone else? Easily, if I think about it, only he would know, but my mother-in-law said I couldn't just let this go and cry myself to sleep. I will never forgive him. 7 days later, a call came in from James to my smartphone. Hey, where are you? I can't unlock the door and get in. Well, that's to be expected since I've already sold the house. What? What are you talking about? Congratulations on your 5-night, 6-day trip to Saipan. It must have been fun. With the three of you, wasn't it? I wonder if it made for good memories. Huh? I could tell James was frozen on the other end of the phone. I continued. Your home is no longer there. We've moved and sold it. You should go home to the woman and the child you have. Wait, it's not what you think. That's not my child. I was finally so angry at James for still making excuses at this point that I unleashed all the anger I'd been holding back. Don't you dare joke with me. You even recognized the child, and now you've had enough of making a fool out of me. Do you think your excuses are going to work now? I don't ever want to see a terrible man like you again. Perhaps because this was the first time I'd ever been so angry, my husband fell silent. I had been speaking on speakerphone, and my mother-in-law spoke up. James, just so you know, no matter how much you try to talk your way out of it, it's impossible. We have all the evidence, and the lawyer is listening to this call. Kate will be claiming damages from you, so be sure to pay them without fussing. And by the way, I'm cutting all ties with you as a parent. Don't even think about relying on me. And I won't leave you a single penny of my inheritance. Wait, what do you mean, Mom? You're not suffering from dementia at all, are you? You idiot! I do indeed have dementia, but when Drake is so hurt and in such a crisis, what good would it do if I didn't pull myself together? Kay has been devoted to me all the time. I can't be her mother-in-law if I can't repay that. Hearing these words, I couldn't help but tear up. Even though my husband treated me so terribly, I truly believed that having met such a kind mother-in-law and a supportive sister-in-law who were always there for me was truly a blessing. I was the happiest bride. After that, James paid me the $57,000 in compensation that I had requested all at once. Although it was quite a large amount, thanks to the great work of my lawyer, we managed to get him to pay the full amount. The photos that served as evidence were definitely useful, but what was most effective was indeed the existence of a hidden child. The fact that I couldn't have a child was one of the reasons, but thinking about it now, it gives me a complicated feeling. I reported all the intricate details about James' affair to his company, and he became the talk of the town there. However, the rumors weren't good ones, so everyone from his colleagues to his bosses looked at him with cold eyes. Even so, having paid the compensation and depleted his savings, he couldn't afford to quit his job, and it seems that he is now miserably working every day at the office, shrinking under everyone's contemptuous gaze. His mistress turned cold on him when his savings ran out, and it seems he is not even allowed to see his child, but he still has to pay child support, so it seems his life is pretty tough both financially and mentally. The eldest child of my sister-in-law got accepted into a university and started living alone. As a result, my mother-in-law started living with my sister-in-law. I bought a piece of land and built a small single-story house there. That's where I started my new life. I'm now using the qualifications I already had to do a job I can do at home. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law often come over to play at my house, so I never feel lonely. My mother-in-law's dementia seems to have disappeared like it was a lie. The hospital doesn't call it a recovery, but my mother-in-law always says it's thanks to me. From now on, I want to find more joy in my life and live happily every day. Tomorrow is finally my son's wedding. I was indulging in sentimentality in a hotel room with my daughter, remembering the memories with my son. My eyes got teary. Mom, are you crying already? Teased by my daughter, I quickly wiped away my tears. Worried about our pet dog, Marine, that we left at home, I tapped the button to view the live feed from the pet camera. Wait, what is this? What was shown was not our pet dog, but my husband and a woman embracing on our bed. My daughter, who had been looking curious at my shocked reaction, peered into the smartphone and screamed, "This is Isabella!" The person mentioned by my daughter was my future daughter-in-law. My daughter took the smartphone from my stunned self and then opened her mouth with a serious expression. "Let's show this tomorrow." I didn't want to ruin the special day, but a certain phrase heard from the smartphone made me accept my daughter's proposal. "I'm going to expose everything to everyone. My name is Olivia. I'm a normal housewife, 51 years old, like any other. It's been about 10 years since I started my part-time job as a cashier. I've become someone who is looked up to as the longest-serving part-timer. My husband, Jacob, is an office worker who turned 60 this year. Our initial meeting was at the workplace. He was in charge of training me when I joined the company, and I was attracted to his reliable figure leading everyone. After getting married, he's been very patriarchal and doesn't help with any housework. But I've told myself it's because he's busy with work. We have 2 children, our son Noah and our daughter Emma. Noah was a bit shy, but now that he's grown up, he's become a man who can truly display his leadership. Emma is about to graduate from university soon, and she will start working from spring. Noah has a girlfriend named Isabella, whom he's been dating since high school. She has been coming to our house since they started dating, and now she's more accustomed to our house than our son is. Noah seemed happy about the situation, and he was smiling as he watched his girlfriend interact with Emma. Then, around 4 years after, Noah started working, his marriage was officially determined, and we were overjoyed. However, since then, Isabella, who was supposed to become our daughter-in-law, started acting strangely. I thought it was pre-wedding jitters, but I had a bad feeling about it. It was one afternoon when I came home from my usual part-time job. My husband and Isabella were in the living room for some reason. My husband should have gone to work as usual in the morning. Also, Isabella's hair seemed wet. "Oh, what's up with both of you? Jacob, what about work?" Well, I happened to run into Isabella on my way back from visiting a client, and then I spilled the coffee I bought." At my husband's words, our future daughter-in-law nodded vigorously, and then she lowered her head. "Olivia, I apologize for intruding when you were out and even taking a shower. I borrowed some of Noah's clothes. I'm sorry for bothering you, especially when Jacob is supposed to be at work." "Isabella, it's fine. Don't worry. We're going to be a family soon, so you don't have to be so formal." When I said that, Isabella immediately brightened up and hugged me. It's not uncommon to receive such a physical affection from her, who is quite outgoing, so I accepted it. Isabella is really cute. I wish she would have me too. "Oh, please, come on." Isabella, who retorted in that way, seemed somewhat pleased, and I felt a sense of incongruity. But there's no way such a thing could happen. I reassumed myself of this and saw off Isabella, who said she was going home. Since then, she started to visit our house more often when Noah wasn't home. "Hey, Jacob, Isabella comes quite a lot recently, doesn't she?" "Noah is always working late. She must be lonely. Isn't she adorable like a real daughter?" "Certainly, that makes sense when you put it that way. But whenever she comes, she always sits next to my husband and starts chatting. And they were always very close." I was not the only one who was concerned about this, as my daughter Emma, also mentioned it several times. Isabella, aren't you too close to Dad? Oh, Rihanna, are you jealous that Dad is getting stolen? That's cute. That's not what I mean. The moment Emma raised her voice in irritation, Isabella clung to my husband. Scary. She made a spoiled, childlike sound. My husband was laughing and accepting her in that state. Seeing such a bizarre sight, Emma and I gradually began to feel uncomfortable with Isabella. In the midst of this, our son Noah finally got a day off, so we decided to go and choose a wedding dress. Initially, I thought Noah would be the only one going, but Isabella asked us to come along and help her choose. My husband was delighted by her words and readily agreed. As a result, we, Jacob and I, Noah and Isabella, all ended up going to choose the dress together. In the fitting room, Isabella started trying on various dresses one after another. What do you think of this? Our future daughter-in-law, who came out from behind the curtain of the fitting room, looked very beautiful. Originally, she is tall and slender, so the dress suits her very well. Noah was completely smitten, and in his joy, he even started crying. A pleasant atmosphere flowed, including the sales associate. The one who broke the atmosphere was my husband's sudden action. She really is beautiful, especially this waistline. It's perfect. Dad, what are you doing? Saying that, he approached her and touched her waist. This surprised both Noah and me. However, she was laughing out loud. Jacob, you can't do that. You're so naughty. Oh, really? My apologies then. Isabella laughed along with my husband. I couldn't comprehend her behavior. It seems like her son felt the same, as he frowned deeply. When she went back to the fitting room to try on a new dress, and my husband went to the restroom, our son took the opportunity to discuss his concerns with me. I've been busy, yes, but she's been hard to get in touch with recently, and we haven't been able to see each other. She used to send lots of messages, but now it's completely stopped. I have a bad feeling about this. What do you think, Mom? I tried to figure out about my son's serious worries and answered. I think it's okay, isn't it? After all, Isabella comes over to our house every day. Every day? Yes, didn't you know? She comes to our house for dinner every day. She gets along so well with your dad, then often drink together. At my words, my son responded, I see, and fell into deep thought. I wanted to ask my son about his thoughts, but Isabella had just finished trying on the dress and came out of the fitting room, so I couldn't. After that, she continued to frequent our home, monopolizing the spot next to my husband. At first, she stayed away when our son was there, but recently she often sat next to my husband regardless of whether our son was there. Emma, our daughter, often expressed dissatisfaction with this situation, but every time my husband got angry, so she couldn't press too hard. The wedding venue was local, but 3 days before the wedding, our son and Isabella gave us a hotel stay voucher. The room was above the banquet hall where the wedding reception would be held, and we could stay there on the day. The hotel voucher was for 2 people. Emma was initially supposed to stay at home, but because my husband suddenly had to go on a business trip the day before, Emma and I ended up going together. The hotel was luxurious, and the room was very nice. Emma and I were delighted and enjoyed the hospitality. After filling our bellies, we collapsed onto the bed. Tomorrow is finally our son's wedding. I was immersed in deep emotions in a room at the hotel with Emma. Remembering my memories with my son, my eyes began to tear up. "Mom, are you crying already?" I wiped away my tears in a hurry, being teased by my daughter. Then, worried about the pet dog we left at home, Marine, I tapped the button to view the live feed from the pet camera. Wait, what is this? What appeared was not our pet dog, but the sight of my husband and a woman, embracing on our marital bed. My daughter, intrigued by my petrified state, peeked at the smartphone and screamed, "This woman! It's Isabella!" The person Emma identified was none other than our son's wife. Emma snatched the smartphone from my trance-like state, and with a serious face, she spoke. "We should show this tomorrow." It was not that I didn't think about the fact that it was going to tarnish what should have been a joyful occasion. But upon hearing a certain phrase coming from the smartphone, I decided to go along with Emma's suggestion. We'll definitely expose this to everyone. The following morning, our room was visited by the newlywed couple. Our son seemed somewhat tired, probably due to working late the previous day. His wife, however, seemed delighted. "Oh, my father-in-law hasn't come yet? I wonder if he is tired." Under normal circumstances, it was just an overly familiar statement, but knowing the implied meaning after witnessing yesterday's spectacle, I almost felt nauseous. "Oh, Olivia, are you feeling unwell too? I'm worried. Please don't collapse during the reception." The overly excited wife of my son was oblivious to the fact that Emma was glaring at her while supporting me. I suppressed my nausea and put on a smile. "I'm fine, Isabella, dear. Don't you need to start getting ready soon?" "Oh, right. Well then, I'll be off." With that, Isabella left, pulling him along. After we watched them leave, Emma and I headed to the wedding coordinator. "Congratulations on the marriage." "Thank you. I apologize for this last-minute request. It's quite unusual, but I would like to play this video with music during the wedding vows." To my request, the coordinator easily agreed. When asked if he could check the content in advance, I explained that I didn't want anyone to see it until the last moment as it was a surprise. He respected my wishes and agreed to play it without a prior review. I felt sorry for the coordinator, who had been working hard for the wedding until today, but it was a perfect opportunity for revenge. My husband arrived at the hotel just in time. After successfully meeting with the parents of the bride, the wedding ceremony began. In contrast to the beaming bride, our son wore a somber expression. I couldn't help but suspect that my son might know about the affair between his wife and my husband. I sat there brooding over it. Regardless, the wedding proceeded smoothly, and the priest announced the time for the vows. Just as my son's wife was about to respond, the sound of a man and a woman echoed throughout the venue. "Oh, stop! You know you can't touch me there." "Oh, really, but I know you love it, don't you?" The voice of a man and woman flirting reverberated around the venue. The guests were bewildered by the sudden video being projected onto the wall of the venue. My son's wife quickly realized what was happening and frantically ordered the staff who was holding her dress to stop the video. However, my daughter and I stood up and shouted, "Wait, isn't that our dad?" "Oh my, it is. And the woman with him is Isabella." At our words, the guests started buzzing. My husband was petrified and pale next to me, and quickly tried to make me sit down by pulling my dress. However, I shrugged him off and continued to talk loudly with my daughter. "Wait, they're both naked. And isn't this our parents' bedroom? Oh, you're right. I've never heard of a father-in-law and daughter-in-law getting so close on a bed." Both my husband and my son's wife turned deadly pale at our banter. The staff member tried to stop the video in a panic, but it seemed the guests stopped them. The video continued to play loudly without interruption, and when a certain phrase was spoken, the guests became even more flustered. "Actually, I'm pregnant. I was planning to announce it at the wedding tomorrow, but I think it might be your child." "That's great. It would be fun if Noah ends up raising my child. And when the child is born, we can have another one." I was getting a headache from this impossible drama. The guests were taken aback and started whispering amongst themselves. My son's wife tried to stop the audio herself, but her overly extravagant dress was getting in the way and she wasn't making any progress. Meanwhile, the video kept on playing. "Stop it, Jacob." "Haha. Maybe I should propose we all live together. We can leave all the housework to the old hag." That old hag must be me. My husband next to me was making excuses, saying it's not what it looks like and you've misunderstood. Ignoring him, I started talking to my daughter again. "That old hag he's talking about is me. That's so mean." "Yeah, ma'am, I feel sorry for you. But wow, these two are really getting it on, aren't they?" The guests began to chuckle at my daughter's words. Both my husband and my son's wife turned bright red. As soon as the video ended, the entire place fell silent. "What the hell is this?" The first to shout was my son's wife. Her usual beautiful face was distorted in anger. Breathing heavily and looking at my son's wife as if startled, my husband also stood up. "What a ridiculous prank! Who prepared this fake photo? Is this some kind of harassment against Isabella? Olivia, Emma, you are making a spectacle of yourselves." After saying that, my husband turned to me with a smug expression. I was about to burst out laughing when I saw it. At the same time, I heard loud laughter coming from the front. Hot Noah! The one laughing was my son. Everyone's attention turned to my son, who was laughing as if he'd lost his mind. After a hearty laugh, his expression turned serious all of a sudden. I knew about Dad's affair with Isabella. I was honestly surprised by the surprise from you, Mom, and everyone else. But Dad's excuse, I can't help but laugh at it. "Wait, what do you mean you knew?" my son's wife yelled, clinging to him. She obviously hadn't expected that their secret was out. My son brushed her aside and pulled an envelope from his pocket. He then threw its contents toward the guests. What is this?" When I looked down at the papers at my husband's walls, they showed my husband and my son's wife entering a hotel and in our bedroom. My son bowed his head to the priest and then began to speak to the guests. Thank you all for attending our divorce ceremony today. The reception after this will be a dining event. Please enjoy your meal freely. Wait, Noah, what do you mean by divorce ceremony? In a panic, my son's wife yelled at my son. My son was unfazed and called over a staff member. To everyone's surprise, the staff member calmly handed the microphone to my son. I first realized about my father and Isabella's affair about 6 months ago. It was on a day I had to come home early because I was feeling sick. When I opened the front door, I heard voices from my room, which should have been empty. Thinking it was a burglar, I carefully peeped into the room, and guess what? He stopped talking at that point, pointing sequentially at his wife and father, then to where the video had been playing just a moment before. And then a new video began to play. My very own father and my girlfriend were having a field day on my bed. Stop it! At the eldest son's words, the eldest son's wife responded weakly, but my son, grinning from ear to ear, dismissed her plea. So if I tell you to stop, you'll stop having an affair? Didn't I always tell you? Don't stick too close to Dad. But you're the one who dismissed it as jealousy, right? His wife stood there shaking, unable to retort. He was still grinning widely, clearly enjoying himself. Then he walked over to a cabinet at the edge of the room, fetched an A4-sized folder from it, and opened it in front of his wife. Seeing it, his wife let out a sharp gasp. Anything but divorce. I don't want a divorce. Yes, it's true. Your father forced himself on me. It was against my will. I respect your ability to maintain your stance even after hearing this audio, although it's sarcastic. His wife still continued to shake her head, repeating, No, no. He handed her pen. Here, we'll sort out finer details later, but for now, just sign the divorce papers. I don't want a divorce. I'm sorry. I really do feel bad. The only person I love is you. Despite her pleas, he kept a poker face and continued to offer her the pen. After about 5 minutes of this back and forth, it was another person who changed the situation. Isabella, just sign the divorce papers now. The person who shouted was Isabella's father. He stormed over to his daughter, shouting at her with such fury that it looks like his blood vessels would burst. I was skeptical until I saw this footage. I didn't want to believe that my daughter was having an affair with her own father-in-law. But even now, you are still trying to run away. I didn't raise you to be a daughter like this. Darling, you don't have to say that much, poor Isabella. The person who stopped the furious father was his wife. Against her, he started yelling even more. You knew about it, didn't you? I heard from Noah. About your affair, too. Oh, no, there's no such person. At this shocking fact, we were all taken aback. Apparently, Noah had happened to discover Isabella's mother's affair while investigating Isabella's. He reported it to the father and apparently came up with today's divorce ceremony. Both you and Isabella are disowned as of today. I will also be claiming alimony from you. No, no! Isabella's mother screamed, and Isabella knelt in daze. Noah handed a pen to Isabella, who was in such a state, and made her sign. Then he passed it to one of the attendees. Well, you can leave the rest to this lawyer. Please communicate through him. Noah said so, apologized to the guests, and left the venue. We have asked the lawyer hired by Noah to also handle our claim for alimony. Oh, Olivia, this was just a moment of confusion. You can use half of my savings as alimony, but can you reconsider the divorce? I don't want to see a man who hits on his son's wife ever again. Please leave the house immediately. The divorce is a settled matter. At my words, my husband drooped his head. At that point, our daughter dealt the final blow. Dad, you're really disgusting. I can't believe you had an affair with my brother's wife. Don't ever appear in front of us again. That apparently the rejection from his daughter, who he has always adored, was the most shocking for him. He looked up at us in a daze, his face pale. Needing my husband as he was, my daughter and I left the venue. After that, Noah and Isabella divorced successfully. They claimed a huge amount of alimony, unimaginable for a pre-marriage amount. Although Isabella refused, Isabella's father said he would definitely pay for it, and it seems to have gone through. Later, it seems that Isabella's parents also divorced, and Isabella and her mother are reportedly working non-stop at an inn run by the mother's relatives to pay the alimony. Furthermore, as a result of the DNA test of the baby, it was revealed that the child was my husband's. The obligation to pay child support fell to my husband, not Noah. However, my husband, who is full of alimony payments, seems to be complaining that he can only get a small amount. After divorcing me, my husband was also fired from his company. He used to say that he often had travel for work, but actually it turned out that he had several mistresses, and his business trips were lies to go on trips with them. Furthermore, the fact that he was having affairs while lying about going on work visits during working hours was discovered by the company, leading to his dismissal. He is now living alone in a small apartment, working multiple part-time jobs. Once when I happened to meet him on the street, his once well-built body had become terribly thin. After that, we sold our house and moved in with our son, who was transferred to the next prefecture. There, we bought an apartment. Now, the three of us are enjoying a life filled with laughter. Recently, our daughter brought home her boyfriend she has been dating since college. He's a calm and kind person who emotionally supported our daughter, who was greatly shocked by recent events. The anticipation of the happiness to come made my heart flutter.